some submissions on it. I will say, yes. Hold for the video? Okay. We're on hold so we can get all of the IT things running. Thank you very much. Um, This is the New Hampshire House Special Committee on Redistricting. Today is November 3rd. We have a work session scheduled today and tomorrow. The purpose of these work sessions is to go through proposed maps by committee members and have maps to go to public input sessions next week. Next week, we will have public input sessions in Reps Hall. They will be Tuesday, the 9th, commencing at 10 a.m., and Wednesday, the 10th, commencing at 5 p.m. Today, we're going to review the county commissioner submissions for HB 54 and 4 state rep maps for HB 50. That would be Merrimack, Belknap, Rockingham, and Coos. Tomorrow, we will be addressing the remaining 6 counties for state reps and the congressional district. Now, that's a lot of maps. I'm going to ask committee members to work primarily off the paper copies that you have been provided, so we know we're all looking at the same thing. If you have your computer on, that's fine, but for purposes of map discussion, let's stay with what you've got. Let's go through the crib sheets that I have prepared, or Lindsay in staff has prepared at great help. You should all have a sheet that looks like this. This corresponds to the stack of maps that are underneath it, and the number on the left of that sheet you will find at the bottom of the first page of the set of maps. So initial, as you can see, we don't go quite consecutively because we sort of went through this and had to pull some because they either were not accurate or not applicable to today's maps, but the numbering is correct for you to follow. So for example, number 1 is a Coos County Commissioner map, and for each map you should have a printout and then the program calculation for numbers. You should also have a sheet that looks like this, and this is an attempt to give you an order which corresponds with the map numbers. So we're going to discuss commissioners first, and we're going to start with Belknap, and so that means we're going to be going to map number 4 in your pile. And then because of the way the commissioner files were sent over, you're going to pull number 7 because there are 10 commissioner maps in there, and we will go through those as compared to the Belknap, Coos, and Merrimack. So I have 2 commissioner map submittals for Belknap, Coos, and Merrimack. I have only received 1 commissioner submission for the remaining 7 counties. So one of the purposes of this is to go through, so if somebody wants to do another map or we think something needs to happen, we have the chance to do it. Okay? All right. Let's start.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Representative Lane.
Thank you. I think you mentioned before about availability on the website. We all learned that the website's not working. Is it going to be corrected before next week? Because members of the public can't access and don't have copies of these maps.
So what the website was apparently updated, I suspect over the weekend, because Monday I got an email that said there's a new website. By the time I took a look at it at Monday night, I went to the redistricting website, which now sort of corresponds with the website format that the Senate has been using in general for a little while. And when I went to click on View Submitted Testimony, there was nothing there. So IT was contacted on Tuesday, and they have corrected the categories in the list of submissions. We are in the process now of informing them, because I just learned this morning that apparently, while there's a list of the submitted testimony, you can't actually open anything. So when we get through the work sessions, it is my hope that those issues will be resolved. And once uploading is resolved, there will be the maps that come out of this work session will be placed online. So,
Yeah, and may I follow up?
Representative Lane.
Are the things that we're looking at, are they over on the table? Is the public able to see them now? Or
Yes, they were. There were copies put over there. I'm not sure how we're going to
Okay.
handle that in the future, because it's a significant amount of paperwork. So we're going to see what we figure out for going forward on that. But that's what
thank
we
you.
tried to do for today.
Okay, thank you.
And just like a regular work session of the House, sometimes we guess and make enough. Sometimes we don't guess correctly. So, all right. Anybody else before we get started? All right. So why don't we start with Belknap, only because I am afraid that if I go out of the order on this sheet, I will become hopelessly lost. So the first commissioner map you should find to review is number 4 for Belknap commissioners, and you should have a map with the calculation from the program for deviation on the back. Number 4, I understand Representative Porter might be speaking to. Is that correct? You press either the blue or you push red to lock.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. A little concerned as a substitute and new to this. Don't ask me too many questions, okay?
I've served on committee with you before. I'm not too worried.
Okay, thank you. So, looking at Bellnap County, it was not possible to create a map that kept Laconia together. So this proposed map keeps as much of Laconia together as possible, and it puts one district, one ward into a separate district. So in this proposed map, District 1 is now Laconia Wards 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6, Meredith, and Center Harbor. District 2 would be New Hampton, Sanborn, Tilton, Belmont, and Gilmanton. District 3 would be Laconia Ward 2, Guilford, Alton, and Barnstead. The deviation between the districts is minus 2.9% to 2.5%, or a total of 5.4%. And the map also keeps the existing 3 county commissioners in separate districts. So that's what this map attempts to do. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Representative Porter. So the easiest way to look at these, quite frankly, might be to look at the numerical listing on the back of the map, because as Representative Porter just went through, it's an easy way to identify the communities that are in a proposed district. And then when you look at the map side, you can see those districts in color. All right. So we have another county commissioner map for Belknap. That is the first page of number 7. And I understand that Representative McGuire would speak to this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, this was attempting to balance out the county. And as Representative Porter mentioned, it's impossible to keep Laconia together. It's just the wrong size for the county, I'm afraid. So this keeps together Sanbornton, Tilton, and all of Laconia except for Ward 1. It keeps together Belmont, Gilmanton, Barnstead, and Alton, which are adjacent and interconnected, and then Guilford, Meredith, Center Harbor, New Hampton, and Laconia Ward 1. The deviation is -3 to +3.9, and that's
Okay.
it.
Okay, so committee members, comments on the maps. Representative Smith.
I'm embarrassed, Madam Chair, because I really thought I understood all of this. When it says in the bottom caption, 2012 districts and 2020 populations, I understand the 2020 populations, but how can each of these be 2012 districts when they're different?
I think that refers to the underlying program, Representative McGuire.
I don't, that shows up on every single map.
Right, it does.
So I believe it's, the districts are the town lines, essentially county and town lines. I don't know where that came from, but the populations are the 2020.
I understand the populations, but I, for example, am curious about what the existing structure is. I know that when we went through it, when a group of people working with me went through it, we decided to keep an overwhelming majority of the lines the same, county to county. And so that's why we didn't submit changes, but we need to have it would be helpful, I think, to see what is, if that's relevant, or to make sure that this label, the label is misleading. I'm sorry for belaboring, but my mind isn't up to this creativity, Madam Chair.
It's not really a matter of creativity. I think Representative Turcotte.
Might I suggest that it might be an incorrect number down there, and it was supposed to be 2012?
Yeah, I'm not really too
but I'm
worried
not
about it
sure.
because I know that the towns correspond with the deviation calculation. Representative Barry.
Yes, to that point, I mean, what matters is, are the populations accurate to the 2020 census numbers, and are the town lines correct? And they appear to be, so it's something I think we just disregard and move on.
I apologize for not addressing it earlier. I did notice it on the maps that were printed out, but there was no way that I was going to be able to change the program printout, and there was no way that I was asking staff to go through to white out 2012. Representative Porter.
Thank you very much. I understand completely.
Okay.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Representative Porter, I recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just wondering about, in this map, are the county commissioners that exist now, are they still in their same districts?
I don't know. I've got a few people with computers. I'm sure they could look it up. Representative McGuire.
Yes, I was going to say that the current commissioner districts are New Hampton, Sanbornton, and all of Laconia, Barnston, Belmont, Gilmanton, and Tilton, Alton, Center Harbor, Guilford, and Meredith, which is not identical to either, so.
Okay, so neither map corresponds to current county commissioners. I will say I've had the opportunity to do a couple of mapping seminars, and one of the things they tell us is that protecting incumbency is not something that is to be done in mapping. So I think it is useful to see where current lines are, but I will say, at least from what I've been told, that is one of the tenets of mapping in redistricting. Representative Porter.
Yes, Madam Chair. Is Belknap one of the counties where all of the residents of the county vote for all of the commissioners?
I don't believe so. I think that happens in Stratford, and I'm not sure where else.
No, there's another one. It happens
No, there's another one that does
Yeah.
that
it's
still
not-
districts them, but everybody votes. I'm not sure which one it is. It's
Thank you.
not Hillsborough, I know that.
No, thank you.
Does anybody know?
I should know.
Okay. All right, Representative McGuire, could you go through the current districts after having said we're not supposed to pay any attention to it? Could you go through what the current districts are, again, a little slower?
Yes, ma'am. New Hampton, Sanbornton, and Laconia.
All of Laconia?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay,
District 2, Barnstead, Belmont, Gilmanton, and Tilton.
okay,
District 3, Alton, Guilford, Meredith, and Center Harbor.
so it's a little all
north-south
over for
middle.
both of them, yeah.
Madam Chair.
Representative Bergeron, thank you.
Madam Chair, I don't know what your policy would be toward using computers. I think several of us have them. And for those that do, I might just mention that Chapter 662 of the RSAs lists out all the towns in the various districts for all the county commissioners and wards and so on. So it might be handy for those with computers to just have that page
I
open.
believe if you have a copy of the bill, and of course I don't have that notebook with me today, the bills actually list them as they exist currently, because those bills were taken, modified for the year, but the actual listings, for example, in the reps and all of those are as they are currently. In executive session, we'll be taking those bills and voting on them with our amendments. So Representative Bergeron is correct. You can look in statute or the bill. Representative Barry.
Yes, Madam Chairman. I just want to go back to your original point, which is when we draw these lines, as you mentioned, factoring in where the incumbents live and what the current lines are it's not something that we've taken up as a standard in any way, and I don't believe from what you just said it should be a standard in any way. So I'm kind of curious why we're going to go through reading the current lines and asking where the current incumbents live when that's not something that we've established as a standard to move forward with. In fact, I would recommend against doing that.
I might tend to agree with you, but I believe somebody was saying that that's something they did. Representative Porter.
Yes, I was just curious because the map that I presented made that point, and I wasn't sure if it was something that was considered, that's all. So it was my ignorance, and I apologize.
I don't think it's ignorance. It's a question everybody has. It's just from a mapping standpoint. I think we need to be careful that that's not one of the things we rely on. Representative Bergeron.
Madam Chair, I would just also mention, and I think this is somewhat permissible in the redistricting process, to give consideration to the kinds of disruption you might cause to existing voters in existing districts or wards or precincts. If, for example, a redistricting would change 50% of the people who are already registered to vote in one precinct or ward, that's a significant impact that might be a factor in the hierarchy of deciding what type of redistricting to do.
Thank you for that comment. That presumes the base you're starting from was one that was constitutionally accurate, I would think, and that it would remain constitutionally accurate. And I think we know from looking at some of our maps that might not be the case. All right, it's always fun to be the first map presenter.
Can I go home now?
I know. I want to thank Representative Porter for being a good sport on that. And while we're talking, just so I'm going through my multiple maps so that I can sort of label them a little further so when we get to them. Anything else on Belknap County? All right, Belknap County Commissioners. So we've heard from Representative Porter as to map 4 and Representative McGuire as to map 7. I'm actually calling it 7A because we're going to have a bunch of them. They They both seem to have deviations 5.4 and 7.0, which seem to be minimal. Am I seeing any other hands or comments on Belknap County? No. Okay. So next, we're going to look at COAS. Sure, Representative McGuire.
Shouldn't we at least look at Carroll and Cheshire? Even if there's only one map?
Yeah, I'm just going through the lists that I have. We're going to go through all of them. Just so, and I understand we can do it alphabetically or not. Unfortunately for all of you, what I'm doing is working off of that map sheet where I thought it would be useful to go through the maps that we have two maps for first. So, COAS, we have two maps. That would be map number 1. And then in packet 7, we have what I've referred to as 7D, the 4th map in that packet. And COAS, Representative Turcott, why don't you start off talking about your map for COAS County Commissioners?
Certainly. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everybody. Coas County, presuming everybody has a map in front of them, so you're going to see pretty much the northern part of the county that's shown in green there is one district. We have Berlin, Kilkenny, and Jefferson as another. And then the remainder of the county to the south and southwest is the 3rd district. On the back of that, they list all the towns. I'm not going to read them all because a lot of these towns have 0 individuals in them. But when you get to the very end, you will see that the overall deviation is minus 1.1 to plus 0.6 for an overall 1.7% overall deviation.
Okay. So yes, indeed, it becomes a little problematic when communities have a population per the census of 0. They need to go somewhere, even with the 0, though I suppose that's arguably an interesting point. Could we completely eliminate the communities that have 0? And I'm going to defer to Representative Lynn for that hypothetical question. Representative Barry.
So this is a little slightly off topic, but if the committee will indulge me, I've always wanted to say this in a hearing. There are occasions in Coas County where an individual will vote from a township, and they will be the only person voting from that township, and their results are reported from that township, so their access to a secret ballot is not around. And I've always thought it's been super awkward if they had a neighbor and the neighbor said, hey, Tim, did you vote for me? He's like, oh, of course I did. And then Joe goes to check the results and turns out, maybe not.
Okay. All right. Any questions for Representative Turcott on his commissioner map? All right. Representative Piedra.
Pretty close.
Piedra. I actually went to him at the beginning of this meeting to apologize, and I'll have to go to him at the beginning of the next meeting to apologize again.
You're
All
working
right,
on it.
thank you.
That's what counts. Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, this is one of the counties where the population shifts have necessitated a change from the current maps. So we have submitted a change here. The proposed map, which is map number 1, I guess, creates 2 kind of geographically compact districts, one with Berlin and one with Milan, and one with Lancaster, Jefferson, Northumberland, and Whitefield, among others, and then a larger district, mostly with towns north of Berlin. The total deviation is 6.2% in this map. I will say, and there's already been some discussion about this, and keeping existing commissioners in separate districts. Our map does, not as a, not the intent of the map. I guess it's a side effect of the way it was mapped. I will, I guess, not challenge, but I guess I have a question about why that isn't something that is a good thing. It could just be my lay perspective, but it seems like allowing voters to continue choosing the representatives that they currently have, rather than forcing them to choose someone else, is a potential positive. So I'll just throw that out there, and if there's something I'm missing, that's fine. Again, not a goal of this map, but it is a result of this map that I think is not the case in the map that was presented by Representative Turcotte.
Okay. I know Representative Smith has attended a couple of those mapping, redistricting seminars. Does she want to address it or leave it to me?
I yield to the chair.
It's an interesting question, but I suppose we would have to then agree that everything that's currently is terrific, is constitutional, and there is an idea that you're not supposed to be protecting your own incumbency. It's one of the arguments in regards to redistricting that occurs as to how it is to proceed. So while we may not have any commissioners sitting here, we certainly have people sitting here that are affected by redistricting. And to start with that premise requires us all to start with the premise that the existing map is serving appropriately the interests of the electorate, and I'm not sure that that's the case, or else we wouldn't have people saying things in regards to where we should go in redistricting. So I sort of like the approach that we're starting fresh. We have a population, and we have criteria that we have that we need to address, and we can look at all our constituents and say whether or not you believe your representative is your choice. We're meeting the bounds that we have set. It's an interesting concept. Anybody else want to chime in? Representative Barry.
Yes, Madam Chairman. Lines are for the people, not for the politicians.
Representative Lynn.
Yeah, I just would say, I think as a constitutional matter, I think you are right, Representative Peter, in the sense that it wouldn't be unconstitutional to do that. And I think there's case law that certainly says that. But I think that for the reasons that some of the other representatives have already said, on the question of is it a good idea, that, it is obviously an overt political consideration to say, well, we're going to try to protect incumbents. And while you may constitutionally be able to do that, if the objective is to, to sort of avoid to the extent possible, the political implications, then I think that what has been suggested are very good points.
Representative Lane? Representative Bergeron?
This is kind of related, and I say kind of related. The cities are going to now seriously begin changing their ward lines because city elections are over, and there were some charter questions and so on the ballot this past election. Once the cities change the ward lines, that will have an impact on some of the currently serving state representatives. They may now be residing in a ward that's now in a different district. So would it be something we should be considering when we look at our legislation to ensure that those people continue to serve out their terms even if they have been bumped out of their wards, or should we? And I'm thinking filing periods too. And maybe I'm starting to get ahead of myself, but
I think you're getting a little ahead of yourself there.
okay.
Representative Turcotte.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to clarify something Representative Lynn said, in regards to Reps Piedra point, and that is, while your issue might be allowed constitutionally, it's certainly not a constitutional mandate. It's just for clarification.
Representative Piedra.
I just want to clarify, I said this already, but this was not an objective in creating these maps.
Right.
So, but I think again, in my lay opinion, if we have two maps and they're both constitutionally permissible, and I haven't heard any reason why one map is better than the other for some other reason, then it seems to me that it's something that can at least be discussed as a factor. We may differ whether, an opinion, I guess, from a policy perspective, whether it's better to just be blind in drawing maps or whether it's better to allow, like I said, a voter to continue voting for a representative that they like rather than being forced to make another choice. I think there's a reasonable policy disagreement. There's no right or wrong in that. But I just wanted to clarify, not the objective of this map.
Thank you, Representative. And I will just note that as he was speaking, I was thinking of the glories of youth, because there was a couple of presumptions in that current representatives were of any type were going to be able to keep running and running and running. And these maps are, in fact, one of the goals of these maps, I hope, for everybody, is to draw fair maps for representation for the people over the next 10 years. So I'm feeling very optimistic after that statement. Representative Barry.
Yes, to Representative Bergeron's point. So it's my understanding that when we have an election in a district, you cover that region until the next election is certified or enacted, right? When we get elected on November and we all get sworn in December, right? So you represent, even if the underlying district is changing, you represent those people until the next election is certified or enacted, whatever we want to call it.
Thank you. Representative Smith.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. When you went to look to Representative Smith a few exchanges ago, I naturally looked to your right, thinking you were thinking of the vice chair of this committee, who I see is not present today. So I'm the only Smith present, and from now on, I understand that, at least just for the day. But
He will be here shortly, so confusion can resume.
Oh, dear me. Well, that's all right. I do want to say that I agree with your point, Madam Chair. This situation that we're trying to go through in a very compact period of time is complicated enough, and I would hope that we focus our discussion only on the very core issues in terms of what is constitutional, what is required by federal and state law, and not include in our discussion issues which might be interesting if we were at the end of the day and sharing a cup of tea, but are not absolutely relevant and essential to our decisions here. I think the fewer of those outlying issues that get raised, the easier it will be, one hopes, to find a way that all members of this committee will be able to agree on the best districts.
Thank you. Representative Wilhelm. So far, I'm living longer, and we have an easy path. So if you keep this up, we're doing good.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will just say I do enjoy hearing, because criteria was not necessarily agreed upon by the entire committee, I do really appreciate hearing what members took into consideration as they were drawing the map. So I do hope that continues. Not necessarily the information that would be shared over a cup of tea, I agree. But I think the criteria is important, and I think members of the public have asked for specific criteria to be used, so that I hope that we don't lose that as part of this conversation.
Thank you. All right, believe it or not, on my meeting schedule, we're still on COAS commissioners. Any comments, further comments on the COAS commissioner maps that we've been given to consider? All right, I'm not seeing any, so we're going to move on to Merrimack County. We have 2 maps to consider for Merrimack County. Number 2 from Representative Lane, and in the package labeled number 7, it's down there. It would be, if you're doing alphabetizing, G. So Representative Lane, if you'd be kind enough to start with your proposed map, number 2 on our numbering system.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Merrimack County needed really small changes to meet the population deviation requirements. The only change in our proposed map makes it is moving Wilmot from existing District 3 to District 2. And with that change, the deviation between the districts is negative 2.7% to 2.9% for a total of 5.6%. So they gave me the easy one. So that's it. We just moved Wilmot.
Okay, well, any questions, comments on map labeled number 2, Merrimack Commissioners? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Merrimack from the 7 stack, Representative McGuire.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. My plan on this was to keep the cities together, and which, as is the current practice in commissioner districts. So I picked, Concord has almost 13 reps, so I matched it with Bow, which is less than 500 off a perfect 1/3 of the county, rather than Boscawen and Webster, which is further off. And then I started there trying to equalize the populations. And you'll notice that the deviation is 0.9% for both of District 2 and District 3. So the total deviation is 2.7%. And that's
Okay. Questions for Representative McGuire, comments on the Merrimack Commissioner map in the stack numbered 7. Representative Porter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative, are there communities of interest? I don't know this information, but it looks like there might not be so many communities of interest between Pittsfield and Henniker, but yet that would all be one district.
That's correct. There's also no community of interest between Pittsfield and, say, Hill.
Communities of interest, Representative Porter, is not a standard that has been adopted by the committee nor even really discussed in depth.
Yes. When you're talking 1/3 of the county, Representative Porter, you've got you're going to have Henniker and Pittsfield are different, no question about it, but so are Newbury and Chichester. So you've got to split once you say Concord's sitting in the middle with almost 1/3 of the population, you then just divide it into contiguous equal population groups. They're not
It's just population numbers you're going.
primarily, yes.
Other questions or comments? Okay. All right, so Merrimack, and that would be the last county commissioner that I have received 2 maps for. So we're going to go now to packet 7 and work our way through the maps that we have not already discussed. And the first one would be Carroll, and I'm going to recognize Representative Turca.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hello again, everybody. Carroll County. Again, if you have it in front of you, pretty much the northern part of the county is one district. The only part that seems to come down a little bit from that is the addition of Sandwich. You have a central part of the county, the green as you see on your sheets, and then along the eastern part of the county down to the base. This has a total overall deviation of -3 to +2.6 for 5.8 overall.
Okay. Comments on the Carroll Commissioner map? I actually started to think, why do we have 3 all over the place? How did that happen? But that's a discussion for another day.
Yes.
Representative Lane.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that we did not submit, no one submitted one on these counties because the population change was not significant in any of these counties, so felt that it was appropriate to keep them as they were, since the deviations all matched, and it seemed, and we looked at the different factors and decided not to submit them. So if we need to submit the existing ones,
I think that would probably make it a lot easier
Okay.
for people to understand what the proposal is.
okay,
Because I have no idea
okay.
what the difference would be. And I think it would be harder for members of the public to understand what proposed change is. Because I know in my community, if you asked people what commissioner's district they were in, they would not, most of the people would not be able to tell you,
Right. Thank you.
which should give you great faith that maybe they voted for you. All right, other comments on Carroll? All right, so the next one, I believe, is Cheshire, which the other Representative Smith was going to speak to. Representative Turcott, you want to speak to that, please?
Sure, I can do that. Again, it looks like Representative Steve Smith has kept all of Keene together, added Roxbury and Marlborough onto it to make it a central district. Then we have a northwest to southwest district in green, and a pretty solid uniform district in the southwest corner of the county. The deviation is -3.5 to 4 for a total of 7.5 overall. And as I did not do this map, I can't speak to the thought process that went into it. Thank you.
Representative Lane, I'm going to let you make the same comment, I'm assuming, on this.
Yes, I'll just make it for all of them for one time, so you don't need to.
Well, I actually don't think it's a bad idea for you to just summarize it for each, because people may be watching and not be watching for the whole thing or coming in and out. Okay.
So do you want me to do
Yeah,
that?
why don't you just
Okay.
quickly, you can,
We did not feel, because there were, in these 7 counties, the population deviation didn't, I mean, the population didn't change that much, so it was not necessary to reallocate and redo the existing commissioner maps.
okay. All right, so the Cheshire, any comments on Cheshire? Anybody have any idea what the current district is in Cheshire? Without looking it up?
Madam Chair, I've got it on at the computer here.
Okay.
For Cheshire, District Number 1 is Chesterfield, Hinsdale, Surrey, Swansea, Walpole, Westmoreland, and Winchester, which is the western edge, basically.
Okay.
District 2, Marlborough, Roxbury, and Keene.
So that's the
So
same
that's the
as-
same, right?
yes.
District 3, Alstead, Dublin, Fitzwilliam, Gilsum, Harrisville, Jaffrey, Marlow, Nelson, Richmond, Rindge, Stoddard, Sullivan, and Troy.
Okay. Thank you. Other questions or comments? All right, moving on. The next one I believe would be Grafton, that we have not spoken of. I've marked that as 7E. Representative McGuire, would you like to speak to that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, we start by keeping the only city together, that is Lebanon, added 2 adjacent towns, and then split the rest of the county by population, northern and southeast, and the deviation is 1.4%.
Okay. Representative Lane.
Thank
Sorry
you.
about that, but I think it's necessary.
Again, we did not submit a map because the population did not change that much in this county and felt that the current deviations worked. I will also add that we will be submitting 7 new maps. I'm not
Lin-
sure when.
Lindsay, if you're listening, I know you're very excited to hear that.
Representative Lane, you're fortunate. You only need 6 because Stratford County doesn't have districts.
Oh, thank you.
Madam Chair, I think Representative Turcott and I would feel very strongly that we wouldn't want Stratford County not to be included as one of the 10 counties. Thank you.
In that case, we can agree on one map.
Absolutely.
Actually, I sort of want to have 2 maps and start a discussion on them and then see how long it takes for people to figure out they're actually the same. All right. The next one I believe we have not discussed is Hillsborough. Representative McGuire.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I didn't really work on this, but
I don't know
as you-
why. Is there anybody else that would prefer to speak to Hillsborough?
I-
Representative
Well, I'm
Barry,
gladly
do you
take
want
it.
to do you want to? You're a rep from the Hillsborough district.
Very
Can-
proudly, from a rep from Hillsborough.
Okay.
Thank you.
I believe county commissioner has not been a focus of mine, but I believe this is the same as it currently is. Not that we're using that as a standard in any way, but this keeps Manchester, Bedford, and New Boston together. It keeps South. See, I've got my east and west mixed up for a second. Southeast Hillsborough County together with Nashua, Litchfield, Hudson, and Pelham, and then the rest of Hillsborough County is all in one district. And it's, excuse me, Madam Chairman, I'm supposed to read the deviations, but it's only the page. Here we go.
3.9.
So we have a negative 3.9 to a negative 1.1, or a 2.8% deviation overall.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Do you want me to make the same comment? Madam Chair?
Yeah, do you know whether Hillsborough, do you know what Hillsborough looks like now? I'm sort of
Well, I was
curious.
just eyeballing it against the list in the statute that Representative Bergeron, and quickly looking, it looks like it is the same. So we might actually have Stratford and Hillsborough to agree upon.
Excellent. Okay. The next one, I believe, that we should discuss would be Rockingham in your packet. Representative Turcott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That was one that I.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
did not
Representative
work on.
Barry, sorry, I have too many crib sheets up here.
Excuse me, yes, Madam Chairman. So this is a North, Middle, and South district. So you have the southern part of Rockingham County is in one district, the middle part of the county, going north to south, is in one district, and the northernmost part of the county is in one district. And it has a deviation of, drum roll please, a deviation of -3 to -0.1, or a 2.9% deviation overall.
Okay, comments on this? Representative Wilhelm?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to clarify, this is map 7H, is that right?
That's what I come up with.
Okay, thank.
Anything else on Rockingham? The next one that I have, we're going to do this just because it's going to be so fun. Stratford, Representative Turcotte.
Thank,
Yep,
Thank-
Representative Wilhelm.
Sorry, I just wanted to
Back
ask.
to Rockingham?
Yeah, back
Okay.
to Rockingham.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'm looking for Portsmouth Ward 2.
All of Portsmouth is together.
It's
It-
not
it
on
may
the
not be in the
list.
picture, but it's all together.
Do you know why it didn't print out on the town list? Is it-
I will find out and come back.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, maybe we'll have that subject for after lunch. Representative Simpson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I didn't hear if Representative Lane said that we would be submitting a map.
I was going to let somebody else do it.
Okay, well, I'm from Rockingham, so why don't I do it?
There you go.
Madam Chair, I'll be submitting a map that looks like the current breakup of the county commissioner districts in the county of Rockingham. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, now, drum roll, Stratford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to present the Stratford County Commissioners map. I think this will be the cleanest of them all. We have a 0% deviation.
Madam Chairman, I would like to applaud Representative Turcotte's presentation of that map.
If only that was it and we could all go home. All right. And then just in time, the last county commissioner map that we're taking a look at is Sullivan County. And your multi-purpose chair is now going to recognize Representative Steve Smith to discuss the Sullivan County Commissioner map.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not a huge change, I don't think. So one of the challenges we had was that Claremont lost some population. And if you look at the map, you have Claremont and Newport, two relatively large municipalities, like a great big wall down the middle of the county. So this is what we came up with. There are not a lot of ways to do it. Claremont, Ward 1 and 3 are with Newport. Then pretty much the northern towns are another district, the southern, the other district, and we come out with a total 8.7 deviation. This seems to make sense. You've got the larger municipalities together, and then the rural ones that may have a different point of view on things, particularly on county allocations, grouped together, so I think this makes sense.
Representative Smith, we're not necessarily using it as a criteria, but it would appear that some people thought the current districts worked, so another map was not submitted. We will be getting another map to show the current district. Would you happen to know what the differences are from the current commissioner map?
No, not off the top of my head.
Okay. Nope, then don't go there. If it's not right, we don't want to hear it.
I can
Representative.
tell you what I do know for sure, though, is that it is similar in that most of Claremont is in one, and then the smaller rural towns are in the others. So the concept is the same.
Representative Porter.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, Madam Chair, because I'm new to this, I'm looking at Claremont Ward 2 having 4,316 people, and then I'm looking at Sunapee and Goshen together, which is pretty close to that. And I'm wondering why the decision was made to split up Claremont, where we've been keeping cities together, and not going the other direction. I'm just curious. I'd like to know what the thinking was there. Thanks.
Go ahead. Representative Smith, if you want to respond.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you got. Are you suggesting that Sunapee and Goshen be added to Newport?
No, that Claremont Ward 2 be included with the rest of Claremont, and that Goshen and Sunapee would be in that green district rather than in the blue.
So, total these two, add them to here, take this out.
I would have to do the math on that.
Okay.
So,
Okay, I'm just curious. It
yeah.
just, yeah.
yeah, we did it a while ago, and it's the arithmetic always gets you by just that much. You know, I don't know.
Thank you.
Other questions on this map? Representative Lane.
I don't want to miss my last chance. So, we did not submit a map on this because of the population did not change all that much, and the existing deviations were appropriate. And the existing one keeps Claremont together with Cornish. To answer Representative Porter, we will submit a map.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Any other questions or comments on commissioner maps? Okay. Now that I have my maps all completely out of order, we're going to go to representative district maps. And the first one we're going to discuss is Merrimack. There should be a Merrimack in packet number 6 and a Merrimack number 10. Okay, this is where your eyeballing skills are really going to have to come into play now. Merrimack County, we sort of had a dry run of Merrimack County at our last work session, so I'm going to ask Representative McGuire to again do us the favor and lead off on going through proposed representative district maps.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is very similar to what I presented a couple of weeks ago. I did listen to the comments and make a couple of tweaks. Pembroke gets its own standalone district. Epsom gets its own district plus a float. And other than that, we've got, and I also split the New London district in half so that it's two town districts instead of one 4-town district. And that's all I can add. And the deviation is just under 10%, 9.2.
Okay, the last town you referenced, I'm having a hard time coming up with here. You talked about Pembroke, you kept its own. Epsom, you kept its own and added a float. And what was the last comment you made?
I split the New London
New
district
London.
from
Okay.
from a 4-town 3-rep district to two districts, each with 2 towns.
Okay, questions for Representative McGuire on this map? The colors are pretty, but with the different multi-town districts and floats, it's still hard to follow.
Yes, some of the floats are a little larger than I would like. I will particularly mention my district, but that's, but the numbers come out very nicely, And with all these odd-sized towns, that's about the best you can hope for.
Anything else for Representative McGuire on this map? We are cruising here. It's one of the tenets of running a good meeting. Hand everybody a lot of paper. It keeps them busy and quiet. All right. I understand we have another map, number 10 for Merrimack County, Representative Lane.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The proposed map includes 32 total districts, 25 base and 7 floterial, with a total of 45 seats. The map keeps Concord completely separate from other towns in the base and floterial districts, which is not in the existing map. The map also increases the number of towns with their own base districts from 4 to 9. And the total deviation for the proposed map is 8.8%. Do you want me to run through the districts or give people time? So,
Why don't we, people are still sort of looking here.
okay.
Let's give everybody a minute. I was just thinking that Representative Bergeron brought in crayons to help mark up, and that I don't think his crayon box is big enough for what I would like to do on this, which would be to color code each town from one to the other. But I'd need the big box of crayons. Right. And that box has long been decimated. I'm pretty sure I don't have all those colors anymore. All right, Representative Lane, if you wanted to go into more detail.
Do you want me to go through the list, Madam Chair? I mean, it's written in paper and,
Okay.
I mean, I can.
All right, I mean, one of the reasons we're doing, okay, so let's just review what we're talking about doing. We have 1 or 2 maps for every commissioner, and 2 maps so far for every rep district. It is the intent to go to the public input session with both maps next week. So there is no, why the agenda indicated something as to going forward in a vote, but it is the chair's intent that both maps be brought forward. And unless somebody makes a motion to do something differently, that's what we're going to do, and I don't really see the need for a vote. So keep that in mind as we go forward. That doesn't preclude discussion on other maps, certainly, but as far as what would be posted online and for the discussion next week at the work session, we're going to work off the same base that we have here in committee. It's bad enough when you're working on one map at a time, that
Right.
when you get all of them.
Well, I just felt like everybody can read probably, so I would point out that one of the factors that we did look at was some communities of interest, and I know that's not a factor that we've adopted, but we did try to look at that as well in the Merrimack map. It's not perfect, and if anybody has suggestions, great, but it's the best we could come up with.
Okay. Any questions on either of the Merrimack maps? And I think maybe tomorrow what we'll do is we'll have a follow-up first thing about whether there are people who have looked at stuff from today and there's questions to go through tomorrow. So even though you've talked about maybe a map you worked on today, keep in mind that I think that if members have questions or want to follow up on something, we should do that also tomorrow. So bring everything tomorrow. All right, if I don't see anything else from a member, I'm not seeing any hands or hearing any voices on Merrimack. Let's move to Belknap. Belknap is going to be map number 8. in your stack, and it is the second map in the maps assembled as number 6. As to the representative map for Belknap, why don't we go to Representative Turcott first, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Belknap County, for those you have in front of you, you will see very similar to what exists now. Some of the towns down in the southwest corner had significant, or I shouldn't say significant population changes, but enough to make some of the existing districts outside of the constitutional one-man, one-vote limit.
Representative Turcott, is
Yes.
your mic on?
I do.
Yeah. Okay.
Want me closer? There we go.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry, Christina, I haven't been looking at you, so.
The
me
county
apprised.
itself ends up with 6 districts, no floats. The deviation on the entire county is minus 0.78 to 4.62 for an overall deviation of only 5.4. Anybody who has worked on some of these smaller counties, such as Belknap, with small populations, and then if you have your allocation map or spreadsheet in front of you, you know that Belknap was going to get 18.49 reps, which makes a small county with small populations a very difficult county to do. But we were able to keep it very similar to what we have today. Laconia is all together, with the exception of Laconia 4, which is with Belmont as it currently is today. The only really major change, as I said, was down in the southeast corner. We paired up Alton with Barnstead and Gilmanton with Belmont. Other than that, the county remains very similar to what it is today.
Thank you. And I will just point out, looking at both maps, I have the same color at the sort of the top of the county and the bottom of the county on each map. So there you go. So this is Belknap County. Representative Wilhelm, do you want to talk about Belknap County? That will be map that's numbered 8.
I would. Thank you, Madam Chair. My map is a little bit different. The proposed House map for Belknap County includes 8 total districts, so 7 base, 1 floterial, total of 18 seats. And, District 1, it's the same as the existing District 2. Meredith gets its own district of 2 seats. Currently, Meredith is paired with Guilford, only connected through the lake. District 3 is Samberton and Tilton. So Samberton and Tilton currently share a district, but with 2 seats. Floterial was necessary to balance the populations with this district in Belmont. Samberton and Tilton, they also share a community of interest, which is something that I've thought about with this map. They both send high schoolers to Winnisquam Regional High School. District 4, Belmont's a single-seat district. Belmont currently has its own district of 2 members, but a float's necessary to balance the populations of Samberton and Tilton. District 5 is Laconia wards 1 through 5. It's 4 seats. Wasn't possible to keep the city of Laconia completely intact. This proposed map keeps 5 wards in Laconia together in a 4-seat base district and 1 ward in another district. District 6 is Guilford, Gilmanton, Laconia, Ward 6, total of 4 seats. Guilford and Gilmanton send their high schoolers to Guilford High School, so that made sense as a community of interest. District 7, Alton and Barnstead, 3 seats. Both Alton and Barnstead send their high schoolers to Prospect Mountain High School. District 8 is Belmont, Samberton, and Tilton, 2-seat floterial, just to balance the populations there. That's why the float was necessary between the 2 underlying districts. And total deviation for this proposed map, including both base and floterial, is 8.27%. Thanks.
Thank you. Questions? Comments on Belknap? Representative Marjorie Smith.
Thank you. If I could separate the two so that the representatives could more meaningfully represent their districts. And I am pleased, as I was pleased when I first saw this map, to see that in fact Guilford and Meredith have been separated, and the waters of Lake Winnipesaukee can now be calm.
Couldn't one argue that being co-abutters to the largest lake mass in New Hampshire creates a huge common interest between your communities, and that therefore, if that is the joinder point, it is the most important point?
That is certainly an argument, but although there certainly are islands in the middle of Winnipesaukee, I'm not aware that any voters live on.
Do we have a district with something from the Isles of Shoals? That would be fun.
We could do that with Maine, and we've gone to the Supreme Court any number of times on that very issue, the U.S. Supreme Court. So, I don't know about you, but I don't really think we want to go to the U.S. Supreme Court on issues relating to Lake Winnipesaukee.
Representative Barry.
Two things. Number one, to Representative Marjorie Smith's point. We actually fought a war over the Isles of Shoals called the Maine Lobster Wars. Go look it up. And number two, to her point about the maps, while we did hear about Meredith, we did also hear a lot of testimony about the use of floterials as well. So.
Okay. Other questions or comments? People were paying attention at those public input sessions. Look at that. All right. Anything else on Belknap? I expected this to go into this afternoon, folks, but I think at this point my intent is to go through these, and we're going to break for the day and come back tomorrow morning. We'll start off seeing, sort of recapping what we did today and clarifying what's happened, and then we'll go into the remainder rep districts and the CD districts. Right? Everybody on board with that?
Are we going to do Rockingham and?
Yep. No, I'm just sort of letting everybody know because I just looked at my watch, and time flies when you're having fun, but not as much. Representative Wilhelm.
Madam Chair, thank you. I saw on the agenda other submissions. I'm curious what those are and if there are any. It's the Mapathon staff.
Well, you received something from Mapathon that was passed out at the beginning of the meeting, but this is a work session, so if somebody has something I'm leaving it open. If somebody has a member of the committee has something else that they want to talk about, they certainly are free to do so. But the underlying purpose, so you're clear, is that 2 maps will go to the public input session as being the products of this committee. So if you want it to be something other than what's coming, as I guess at this point I can say one side of the table or the other, there's going to have to be a vote. Because my intent would be that the public input sessions in the first instance be driven by whatever, as a committee, we have presented, with the opportunity for you all to point out during these meetings or the public at the public input session other maps that have been presented. And I know that everybody sort of has gotten their maps done very recently, so I'm aware that not everybody has all discussion points ready on everything. So if you want to bring up something else, we certainly can do it. All right, we're going to move on to Rockingham. Rockingham is in your packet numbered 6, and Rockingham is also number 11. Representative Simpson, you want to kick this off for Rockingham?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So, as you know, I was not a substitute in the last meeting, so apologies if the way I do this is too detailed and laborious, but I was planning to go through each district.
That's fine.
As quickly. Okay, great. Thank you.
Rockingham is sort of a tough district, so.
It is, right?
Yeah.
And it's got a lot of towns. So I appreciate that. So our guiding principles here are that each town gets its own representative as often as possible, and that the districts be as small as possible, which also helps minimize barriers for access to running for office. And then we prioritize small single-seat districts rather than the large multi-member districts, which we do have a number of in Rockingham. So I'm going to hold up my map. I'm starting up here in the top northern corner. So District 1 would be Deerfield, Northwood, and Nottingham, all together receiving 3 seats. And then District 2, right to the south, is Auburn and Candia. Both towns do send high schoolers to Pinkerton, and they would have 2 seats together. Raymond then is next door and would have 3 seats. That's the same as the existing district. Londonderry likewise is the same as the existing district, 7 seats. Derry, 10 seats. That's what is happening now. Wyndham also has 3 seats, which is the same as the existing district. Then Salem, right in the far south, has 9 seats, which is like the existing district. Now I'm jumping up over to kind of the middle. The pink up here, Epping, has 2 seats, which is the same as the existing district. And in this map, Brentwood, Fremont, and Chester would be grouped together with 4 seats. Now Sandown, this little purple one in here, it would have 2 seats on its own. This is a new town that would receive its own state representatives. Danville, right next door in orange, is the same as the existing district. They have 1 seat. Hampstead would have 2 seats. This would be a new town that would get its own state representatives. Atkinson, likewise, would have 2 seats. It would be a new town having its own base district. That's right there. Kingston and Plastow, in the light green there, would get 4 seats together. And then Newfields and Newmarket, jumping up to the north in that dark pink, they would have their own 3 seats as they do currently. Exeter would have 4 seats as it currently does. Stratham would have 2 seats as it currently does. Then East Kingston, Kensington, Newton, and Southampton, in blue at the south, would each have, or would all have 3 seats together. Hampton Falls and Seabrook would be the same existing district with 3 seats. They do both send high schoolers to Winnicunnet. District 20 next door, which would be Hampton and Northampton, in green, they also send high schoolers to Winnicunnet and would have 6 seats together. Now up here to the yellow piece is Rye and Newcastle, which are an existing district now with 2 seats. Greenland and Newington and Brown would have 1 seat. That's the same as the existing district. And each of the Portsmouth wards would have 1 seat. That's the same as what is happening now. And then in Rockingham, there are a number of floterials. So District 28 would be a floterial composed of Districts 1 and 2. So this is kind of a big floterial in the the northwest corner. Do you see that? It's all in blue, light and dark blue together. That would be one floterial. District 29 would be another floterial. This would be Districts 4 and 6, which I do not have these all memorized, would be Londonderry and Windham, down there in the south, right there. And then District 30 would be a floterial of Districts 11 and 12, which would be Danville and Hampstead, which are right here in the middle, in orange, pink. District 31 would be a 1-seat floterial with Districts 15 through 17. It's the same as the existing district, which would be Newfields, Newmarket, Exeter, and Stratham. 3 of those 4 towns send high schoolers to Exeter High School. And then finally, District 32 would be a 2-seat floterial composed of districts 22 to 27, which would be Portsmouth wards plus Greenland and Newington. And all of those do send high schoolers to Portsmouth High School. So I appreciate your patience with that. And the total deviation for this map is on the back, and it's a 9.98% overall.
Maybe we need to add cross-hatching.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it has those solid lines around them, which makes it a little bit easier. But
Yeah, no, they're there, but
yeah, you have to have your glasses on for sure.
all right. Any questions or comments on this before I turn to Representative Turcott? I'm not seeing any, so Representative Turcott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Rockingham. We'll just start out by saying we were able to get 38 districts out of the county with 9 floats. As always, try to maximize our districts in each county. It doesn't always work, but when you have a big county like Rockingham, it's a little bit easier. I'd like to point out a couple commonalities, which is kind of interesting. The upper left-hand northwest corner, Representative Simpson's map and mine both have a float with the identical 24,684. We just pair our towns slightly differently. Then I would also like to note that the east part of the county, from basically Stratham to the east, is going to be very familiar to the folks who gave us the packet this morning. So they will enjoy that. So a little commonality there. I am not going to go through and read all of them. There are 38 districts. They're all listed on the back. And we do end up with 9 floats in Rockingham County. The total deviation on ours goes from minus 4.93 to positive 4.86, 9.8 overall. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Questions for Representative Turcott? Thank you. All right, I'm not seeing any. Representative Marjorie Smith.
The scale of the maps make it very hard for us to parse this, but tell me where Newcastle and Newington abut each other.
No,
Newcastle and Newington do not.
So it's just going through the Portsmouth, you need those 2 Portsmouth wards to do that?
That's correct. If you look on the next page after, excuse me, the map itself, it lays out the districts.
Yeah.
If you go there and you'll see what the districts are.
So you split off 2 Portsmouth wards
That's correct.
with Newcastle
Yep.
and Newington.
And as I noted before, you would find that the gentleman's maps in the back did the exact same thing. It actually is a very, very solid way to do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Questions or comments? Okay. All right, so the last representative map we have scheduled for today is COAS. Again, in packet 6, that should be the first map you have. And packet number 9, Representative Turcotte, why don't we just stay with you?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very simple explanation on this. 6 districts. We did absolutely 0 floats. We didn't see the need for it by adding a float just for the sake of having it. You'll note the districts, they're there right for you to see in the different colors. One note that I didn't mention while we were doing the county commissioners is that I was able to mirror to the biggest extent possible the county commissioners and the rep map. So you'll note that the district in the middle, Berlin, Kilkenny, and Jefferson, mirror exactly the commissioners. And then the northern part of the county and southern part of the county, we're able to mirror, not quite as much, but very similarly. So this one, again, 6 districts, no floats, overall deviation 8.68. And please do not ask me to read all the towns. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative Barry.
I just want to ask Representative Turcotte a question. By mirror the county commissioners' maps, you mean the proposed ones, not the current?
That's correct.
Other questions for Representative Turcotte? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so we're going to move on to the COAS map. It's numbered 9. Representative Piedra.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our map appears very similar to the map just presented by Representative Turcotte. I'll also note that the map we are submitting, I believe, is identical to the map submitted by the good folks at the Mapathon. We do include a float in our map because Berlin is the only municipality that is entitled to its own district in the county, and so we did preserve that. And in order to do that, we did create a float for the 3rd seat in that area. But otherwise, the map is very similar to the other map presented.
Okay. Questions or comments on that map? Okay. All right. Questions or comments on anything that we've had so far today, committee members? Okay, you just had referenced a Mapathon map. You have that in front of you as a packet. Anybody have an update on the website as to whether or not it looks, you can read it yet? I'm going to check that out. Christina Dyer. Pardon me? And you can read it now? All right, so I'm assuming that uploading can now, hopefully it functions in all aspects. I'll be around and here and take a look to make sure that it can. So members, you can get back on that site now. It's been down for a couple of days to see it. And you were actually emailed over the weekend as a member of the committee this link to the site. So if you don't want to go through the New Hampshire court site, you can get to it through that email that has the direct link to the site as compared to it being uploaded to the site. Representative Porter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you make sure that there's another packet for Representative Weber when she returns tomorrow, because I'll be coming back with my packet and she won't have one.
Are you back tomorrow for somebody else?
I thought I was for Representative Peter.
Okay.
Correct, yep.
All right. I had a few substitutions and I just wasn't, my brain isn't focused too much on tomorrow yet. All right. So we need another packet. Okay. Representative Wilhelm.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Maps that were submitted today by members, when will those be made available to the public?
I'm not sure. I'm going to have to deal with staff and IT. I'm not sure. All right, so we need another map set for Representative Weber. Okay. If people don't have anything else for today, we will adjourn until 10 o'clock tomorrow. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for your attentiveness, and have fun comparing.